Yeah, it wasn't like a one-day decision. It took almost 1 year. It wasn't an easy decision. A lot of people think that you need money to start some company. It's not true. You need just your passion and time spent on the thing. Now I needed to move myself to the smaller flat because I didn't have the salary, but you feel that you need to do it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the What It Takes podcast. I am joined today by Mikulas Hurta. Mikulas, it's a real pleasure to have you here on our first call. You shared a really inspiring story of how you got to the position that you were in today. So very excited to talk about that. And yeah, man, huge welcome. How you doing today?
Thanks a lot for inviting me here. Yeah, I'm fine. Very busy day here in the Czech Republic. There is already evening at your place probably as well. So yeah, I'm doing well. What about you?
Yeah, awesome. And I'm doing great, dude. Like I said, really excited to learn more about you and really what you do. So for starters, why don't you introduce yourself and your company, your business? What is it that you do today?
Okay, my name is Mikulas Hurta. I'm CEO and founder of NeilTekstile. And at NeilTekstile, we have developed fully circular textiles from innovative materials like corn, recycled car tires waste, recycled cotton, bacterial cellulose, and others, including its take-back system and molecular recycling. So that's the thing we do, and we are offering these products to our customers, mainly to sustainable fashion brands.
Amazing. And how did you get into focusing so much on the sustainability side? What drives you, dude? What is the one thing that kind of gets you up in the morning, and what's your passion?
Yeah, it was one time I recognized that 1/3 of our life we spent at work. The second third we spent by sleeping, and to make meaningful only the third of our lives. It seemed to be too short period for me. So I decided that I would like to make also my work life sensible for me. And what I really like and getting energy from is helping people. So firstly, I was thinking about maybe working in some charity or something like this. But then I recognized that through my own company, I'm able to creating much bigger positive impact than individual.
Yeah.
Also, I love working with people, organization, communication, and so on. So it was clear choice that I want to develop company who will help people to face with problems.
It's interesting. And why textile though?
Yeah, to be honest, in the beginning, I had a list with a lot of ideas, for some positive impact business. And then I found out that textile industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world. There is a huge release of carbon footprint of CO2 emissions, huge consumption of water, big creation of waste. And there is a direct link between biggest global issues like global warming, water scarcity, biodiversity loss, and so on, with this concrete textile industry contribution on these problems. So I could see a lot of problems, and I was sure that there should be a lot of solutions for these problems. So that was the reason I finally decided for the textile industry.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, dude. I mean, so you sat down and you were like, what are the most pressing matters? And you decided to go for this, considering that this was the one thing that polluted the environment the most. I mean, it's a pretty big thing to do, but I want to get back to your business. But one thing that really fascinated me about you was your early life. It was your resilience and everything that you went through and how you ended up today, right? It's quite an inspiring story, I believe. And I think a lot of others would agree. So talk to me about growing up in Czech Republic. What was that like for you? What was the environment like? I mean, what was the situation?
It's a long way. I grew up in Ostrava. It's the third biggest city of the Czech Republic. And I grew up in surrounding of Ostrava, concretely Dubina. It's part of Ostrava. In that time, it used to be, or it was called like a drug center of Central Europe, so very low social environment area, I would say. Yeah, and I was born to the family with a little bit complicated relationships, I would say. My parents divorced once I was 7 years old. Both were alcohol addicted. So at 14 years old, I decided to leave my home and change my life and go to the right direction, let's say. But it wasn't simple like this. It was a long journey with a lot of learnings and so on.
I can imagine that. And obviously, what made you want to leave at 14? I mean, you're obviously very young. And I think that I remember when I was a child, I left home several times, but I always came back. I got mad at my mom and whatever it was, and I would come back. For you, it was a little bit more serious, right? I mean, you decided to permanently leave at 14. What was your mind like? What was your thought process? Did you have a plan? I mean, what was going through your head?
Well, I could see a lot of things which were not functioning well, So I could see the things how they shouldn't be. Based on that, I decided that I can do the things in opposite way, how they should be like, So, and concretely, I remember the day I left my home. It was pretty difficult situation because I came back to my home and in my own bed there was some homeless people, and really, all alcohol addictive. It was the point I decided, look, I need to go through my way, because there is just two options. I can stay in this environment and probably it will be very difficult to get out in later stage, or I can change it and go through my way, So that was the point. And there is it's called this statistic. It's called social mobility. And according to statistics, 90% of children from this low social environment never will be in the highest social class, let's say. So it's a very negative statistic. But it was always a motivation to prove to the world that I'm able to do it different, So it was also kind of motivation that, I will change it.
Yeah, it sounds like you had to grow up at a very young age, right? And I think the fascinating aspect here is the fact that you did recognize that the path that you were currently on, living with, I don't know if it was your mom or your dad, but the situation that you were in at least, this path was not resulting in a life that you said, I want to live the same life. And so you thought to yourself, which I think is pretty cool at that age, right? You said, I'm just going to do the opposite, right? And so I believe on our first call, one of the things that you mentioned was that you recognized that it was the lack of education or something around the education part. And you said, well, there was either it was one in your family had education, he was doing well, or it was the fact that some people in your family, most people in your family did not have education. So you're like, I'm going to get an education. Because, right? What was the story behind that?
Exactly. As I said, I could see a lot of things, how they shouldn't be, according to my point of view, and education was one of the things, because my parents had only the basic school, and even nobody in my surrounding has no university or high school and things like this. But there was one person, my uncle, who has the university degree education, and he was pretty successful. He was managing big companies in the Czech Republic and in Slovak Republic. It wasn't the closest family, I would say. It was a little bit more far family, but anyway, still this person was here, and I could see that my idea to do it in opposite way is not wrong.
Yes.
Because, for example, in case of education, it can work, So for me, it was very important to connect the practice with the education for all my life. Yeah, and now couple months ago, I finished my doctoral studies, and it was the right
Absolutely incredible, man. Congrats on that, dude. So obviously, when I hear stories like this, right, because I think people react differently to experiences. Some people might have gone through what you went through and just been completely traumatized, right? Or they may have been completely unable to do anything. You showed a lot of resilience at that age. How has those early experiences shaped who you are today? I mean, how did that shape how you saw the world, your view, essentially where you are and who you are today?
It shaped me a lot, because there was a lot of crazy stuff around. And then after the divorce, even my mom had cancer, so her solving of this issue was alcohol and some pills and things like this. So and it shaped you a lot, I would say. So of course there is positive impacts that I got some resilience, let's say. But there is also some negative impacts, because, for example, it's very difficult to change my opinion from some external influences, and sometimes it's needed to change opinions because you cannot be still the right, So it means that, for example, for me, I need to understand things by myself often, or I need to go through the things myself, and then I am able, for example, to change opinion. So I'm really used to firstly feel the things, and then I'm not so, I would say, shapeable at the moment from the external influences. So, for example, for my girlfriend or for my friends, it can be sometimes difficult. I'm trying to work on that, But for example, that's the thing. But of course, I would say that there are more positives than negatives, because since this age, I was able to be very autonomous. I needed to all the things by myself, and taking the responsibility for them. So I'm used to take responsibility for a lot of things since very early age. That's the thing. Also, I'm able to create connections with different kind of people, I would say. That's also that I'm very open-minded in that. So that's something positive as well, that I'm able to interact with production operator in our facility and be very close to him, as well as I'm able to get a very nice connection with some top level management in our company.
Yeah.
That's also some example, for example, and there is, of course, a lot of things. I would say that the whole person, how I am now, was shaped through my way.
I can imagine, man. I mean, I hear this, and I think, one question that a lot of people have is, what happened after you moved out? I mean, did you continue school? Did you work? What was then life after you moved out?
Yeah, it was tough times, but I was pretty lucky, because of course, firstly, I was with my friends in the streets and so on, But then I was very lucky that my grandma and my aunt was able to take me to their flat. So I started to live with them. My grandma is a great person. I would say one of the closest person in my life. And she has also basic school, but she has she's different person like that. She's still supportive. So if I decided that education is important, I had full support from her. Yeah, okay, go for that. So
amazing. Also, she was encouraging you.
Yeah. She was encouraging me a lot in that. But to be honest, in that time, I wasn't so often at home. I was still somewhere out, and yeah, of course, in the morning I was in the school, and then in the afternoon I was somewhere out. Also, the very positive influence on my way was that I was playing football, like on a regular level. So
Yes.
I had trainings 3 times per week, and also that was something very important. What shaped me, and also teach me that I'm able to respect authorities, in some way, because the football training, it's totally undemocratic thing. You need to follow the train. That's it. So, and
I can relate.
it had a very good impact on me, because I needed to follow the trainer. I needed to be part of the group, and also it brought some discipline to my life. And discipline is one of the most important thing, even more important than motivation, for example.
Yes, yes, I'd love to get back in discipline. So, okay, you played football, you learned a lot there, and I can definitely see that, right? And so, one thing I'm curious about here, though, Mikulas, is at this age, right? Did you have a vision for your future? Did you imagine that you were going to be an entrepreneur one day? I mean, where did this entrepreneur mindset, when did that come into the picture? Did you have that there, or did that come later?
Definitely not entrepreneur. My vision, my dream, my goal was to be some top manager, let's see, C-level manager, something like this. Because I could see it at my uncle's life, that he's a manager, he has a nice family, he has children, a wife, and house, and everything. So that was my goal. But the thing was that I achieved this goal once I was 21 years old. I was the youngest production manager in the aviation industry. I spent in this position a couple of years. And then I realized what I had said, like to make something more sensible and maybe be able to decide more flexibly, because in the corporate company you still have some limitations, you have some boss above you, so it means that the entrepreneur idea was born in this period, once I achieved my original goal to be a top class manager, let's say.
That's awesome, man. And the job, if I remember correctly, the job that you had at the time, this was a job in aviation or something? What was that?
Yeah, it's IAC company, International Aviation Coatings, and I was production manager of the plant here in the Ostrava. Because it's international company, they have facilities in Ireland, US, Singapore, and all around the world. And they had, or still have, one facility in Ostrava. So it was because in that time, just to connect it maybe to that, I worked since my 15 years old. I started some like short-term works in constructions and in milk production company and so on. Then I got some more serious jobs like process engineer and so on. And then I decided, look, I want to try to fulfill my dream to be a manager. But I was 21 years old, to become manager in 21, it can be complicated. So but my approach was that I was sending every day about 10 job application, so maybe I sent hundreds of job applications. From the hundred, just tens of them reacted back, and maybe just 5 of them invited me for the job interview. And one of them was the IAC company. It was like 3-stage job interview, so very, very difficult one. But I won this, and they gave me this opportunity. I'm very grateful. Still, I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful to my boss in IAC, and Declan O'Brien is his name. And they gave me this opportunity, and I was
amazing.
managing a whole Ostrava's plant.
So you got, first of all, it's a lot of grit, right? I mean, sending hundreds plus of applications, number one. But then this was a management position that you landed at 21 years old.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, man. So one of the things that you wanted was obviously to achieve that life of being a manager, right? And you did climb that ladder, didn't you not? Like once you started in the company, did you advance within the hierarchy, let's say?
The only advancement I could achieve was my boss position. And my boss was
All right.
sitting in Rome, you know? So I didn't have any boss in Ostrava. I was the boss in Ostrava. My boss was sitting in Rome that time. He is Irish guy. So that was the only chance for some graduation there. But to be honest, I didn't want to move from Ostrava because I already had a girlfriend and wanted to build family and so on. So that wasn't way for me. That was the time I was starting to think how to continue, because I achieved something I wanted, but maybe I can upgrade somehow. Yeah, and I decided to upgrade in this way.
And what was that process like? Because, now you have a pretty good job at a young age. How long did it take for you? And, at what point did you realize that this is not for me? I need to get into entrepreneurship and do something myself. Like you mentioned in the beginning, right? Like impact, this and that. But what was that process like for you? How long were you there? And when did these thoughts of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, when did they come up?
Yeah, it wasn't like a one-day decision. It took almost 1 year, because I realized that what I described, that I want to do something what makes even more sense to me. And so I immediately informed my boss, because I was grateful and I am still grateful for the chance. So I immediately informed him, looped up, I want to move myself to something creating positive impact. So please find somebody instead of me on this position. And it took 1 year, actually, this period between I informed my boss till I really left the company. So, and it wasn't an easy decision. I was sure that it's a right to do, but I wasn't sure if, because exactly I was 20, in that time I was, I think, 25, something like this. I was 2-3 years in the company already. So I had a very good job. I had a very good salary. I had a very nice flat. I had all these things around. But for me, it wasn't such important for me, these things around. The importance for me was making what really makes sense for me. So
fulfillment, essentially.
Yeah. So I knew I need to do it, but it wasn't such easy. And then once I left the company, I doubted many times this decision. Of course, now I needed to move myself to the smaller flat because I didn't have the salary, I didn't have nothing. Time. So it wasn't easy, but I think that these kind of decisions in your life, you never feel like I'm 100% sure this is the right, not the right, that it will work. You are not 100% sure that this decision will work, but you feel that you need to do it. It's very similar, like, for example, now, it was yesterday, actually, I asked my girlfriend to be my wife, And it's exactly the same thing, and I spoke with a lot of my friends, if they were really sure that's the girl for the rest of their life. And everybody told me, no, I wasn't sure. And this is kind of decision that I think from emotional part of your thinking, you are not able to really feel 100%, that it will work. But you feel that's the right thing and you want to do it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Moving towards entrepreneurship, I mean, because I know a lot of people, they think a lot of the times about making that move. It's one thing to think about it. It's another thing to actually go ahead and do it. And you did, explain it very well about the thought process where, it just felt right to do, similar to, proposing to your wife, for example. But you must have had influences that sort of inspired you throughout, or did you not?
No,
Role
because
models, potentially.
even none of my friends is entrepreneurs. So
Mm,
to be honest, I had just experiences from my employee career.
mm,
And I was studying also the similar topic, industrial management, but I didn't have any person or anybody who would tell me, yeah, once you are, I don't know, setting up the entity, you need to fill this paper, you need to do this, and so on. But it's not like quantum physics, it's
yeah.
pretty easy thing that you can check on the Google and so on. So in that time, I think I had about 8,000 euros in my bank account. And I was sure that I'm able to, with this money, I'm able to live even for 1.5 year, 2 years, something like this without problems. If I really want. So I wasn't in the financial pressure like this. So I knew that for some time I'm able to live with this money. And yeah, it takes some time because firstly I was alone. Then I was hiring some internships from the local universities, Then from the internships, they became the half-time employees, then full-time employees. And step by step, now we have company with almost 30 employees, and it was a journey as well.
Obviously, before you started this company, you mentioned that the process of founding it was you looking at impact in the world, like what can you do? And you made a list, right, of all the different things, and you decided that textile was one of the biggest things that you could work on that would have the most impact, right? So you started this, and then what was the journey like of, obviously registration was easy, setting everything up, but what was the journey like from idea to actual execution and scaling? I mean, what was that process like? Was the business model very clear, or did you have to work on it over time? How did that look like?
Yeah, a lot of people think that you need money to start some company. It's not true.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need any money for that, You need just your passion and time spent on the thing. So concretely, in my case, I got in touch with Czech universities because I decided textile is, it was a little bit more difficult way. Why textile? Because my trousers got broken and so on. But it would be a long story. But I choose textile. And I could see potential that if we create fully circular textile, it means 100% recycled to 100% recyclable into the same quality fibers. It shows how to change the industry and how to create this positive impact. So that was the clear vision. And then I got, I didn't have the startup capital to do own production immediately, own R&D and everything. So I already started with zero in my pocket. And I got in touch with universities. And it was the same approach, like, for example, with my job applications. I think I contacted maybe not hundreds, but tens of university departments across the Czech Republic. And again, tens of them replied. Then just a couple of them invited me for personal meeting. For these 5 people, I recognize that 2 of them are close to my thinking and decided, let's start something. And of course, in the beginning, they need to cover the costs through bachelor thesis, through diploma thesis, and kind of activities to make really the first stage R&D, let's say. And then once we had something in hand, we were able to connect it to some public funds, to some small public funds, and bring some external money into this project. And then, step by step, once we fully validated the materials, the recycling, We put it to the market. Firstly, like B2C business model. It should be like circular fashion brand. But immediately we got a lot of emails from other fashion brands, like, are you able to produce from these circular materials also for us, and so on. And yeah, it was almost day to day we changed this business model to B2B. That okay, we will provide this solution for the fashion brands. Yeah, and we started step by step, firstly with outsourcing production, then building our own production, and so on. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So you started off producing, the textile that was good for the environment, sold it B2C first, in fashion brand aspect, and then you discovered a demand from B2B companies who said, hey, can you produce clothing for us with this textile, if I understand it correctly?
Exactly. We did crowdfunding campaign for our B2C brand. We got money we wanted, we needed. And through that, we produced the first industrially produced collection. And after launch of this collection, we received the messages from brands if we are able to produce for them as well. So we decided to change the model from B2C to B2B.
And you obviously I find this really cool because it showcases that you started this business with the passion in mind, right? You wanted to make a difference and you had this idea, I'm going to do B2C. Had you ever considered B2B so early or even at all as, in your business model?
Probably yes, a little bit, but we weren't sure what will work and what not, So the very important thing in business is these experiments and to make very short circle between like planning, doing, checking, and acting. And the shorter you are able to do it, the better market fit you are able to find. Sometimes I think that companies are afraid to go with some afraid to go to the market with some product which is not perfect. I think it's necessary to really get it to the market, listen to customers, and be possible to very quickly react and change the business model, change the product parameters, change all these things. And if you are able to do it for long term, I think that's the way how the startup can grow. Yeah.
And what type of resources or people have you looked up to when it comes to learning about business, right? Because it's no easy feat building a business. You require some knowledge. Where did you learn this knowledge? Was it an individual or there are specific books that really helped you? I mean, how did you learn how to grow, scale, and manage a business?
That's the thing maybe which I mentioned. I needed to go through by myself. Of course, I've had some presentations and so on, but I wasn't able to really believe and feel the ideas or personalize myself with some ideas if I wasn't like sure that I really believe in that way. And sometimes it was positive impact on our company. Sometimes it was negative impact on the company. So to be honest, I don't read too much. I'm always saying that the longest text I have read is the etiquette on vodka.
All right.
just joking, but yeah. But for example, now I'm reading Discover Your True North. It's a big bestseller regarding authentic leadership and so on, a very known book. And for me, to be honest, now I'm considering that I will quick it somewhere in the middle because I'm not able to. For me, it's a very surface information, not the deep ones. But I've read some books which inspired me. I need to say so. But concretely, this book I'm reading now, and a lot of this kind of startup bestsellers, for me, it's very surface books, still the same shit again and again, how to do it, but I think it will work. Yeah.
I mean, I think, when it comes to knowledge and books, I think a friend of mine told me about his model of finding information. And essentially what he does is, imagine you have a square box, right? Square, essentially, not a box, but a square. And in the middle, you have a concentrated level of the most popular books, and they become decreasingly less popular the further out towards the edges you go. His philosophy is that the best business books and the best knowledge are the ones that are on the outskirts of those boxes of that square, essentially. Because if you have something that 80% of the population, that's like a best-selling startup book or a best-selling business book, a lot of people read this, but then it's going to be always surface level because it's appealing to the masses, but you don't really get the details. And so, just through that, you look at what are the, for example, billionaires, for example, what advice do they give, or if you look at some very niche books that are not very popular, like I'll talk about, there is this book within marketing, actually. So for anyone who's interested in marketing and wants to learn copywriting, so writing sales copy, a book that is not popular at all, but so incredibly valuable is a book called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. Now, this is a book written, I believe, in the 60s or even earlier, but it goes into depths about awareness levels of your market, sophistication levels of market, and how to market to those individuals. And when applied correctly, you just have dramatically better results in whatever information you can find in these best-selling books, right? That everyone tries to do, because now you're just a part of the rest of the flock and your strategies are, it's saturated. Whatever you're doing is saturated. 100% agree with what you're saying there. Like it's becomes very redundant.
Regarding marketing, I've read very good books from Byron Sharp. For me, is really very inspiring guy in field of marketing, because he based marketing on data, on big data. And he created, I think it's called laws of marketing or something like this. First marketing thesis based really on huge data collection. And he's a little bit in opposite with Kettler and this marketing and management theoretics. So Byron Sharp, for example, was very inspiring for me. So I've read some books, and some of them was very inspiring for me. But I think that for my entrepreneur inspiration, we have a local community here of it's called MSIC, but probably not important. But what's the impact on me and my business is that we are able to share concrete experiences, concrete practices across the entrepreneurs, and that's something what really helped me as well.
It was experiences from other entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, talk to me a little bit about the industry that you're in. I mean, what makes this so important, the textile industry? Why is it so bad for the environment?
Yeah, its contribution of global warming, for example, is 10%. 10% of global green gas emissions is from textile industry. So a whole tenth of global warming is because of textile. Then 20% of water pollution is caused by textile industry. So again, 1/5 of water pollution and problems with water scarcity is related to textile industry. Then there is tons and tons of the textile waste each second. So there is, in other words, if we want to face global environmental issues, it's not possible without change of textile industry, because its contribution is such big.
What are some of the consequences of, what happens to our environment or world if we don't address this, if we don't fix this?
To the world or to the earth, probably nothing. But to the people, it's different, because I often hear like save the planet, but planet doesn't need to be saved. Planet doesn't matter if it will be big fire globe or a blue globe.
Mm.
It's important for the people. And global warming itself, there's a lot of scientific papers and so on. So I think that's a very clear thing that it's caused by human. And maybe here, because if we spoke about the water consumption and global warming and so on, so concretely, for example, global warming, always I knew that, like, for example, synthetic materials and so on are wrong. But to be honest, I wasn't able to explain to others why it's wrong. Then it was maybe 5-6 years ago, I went to have a beer with my friend, and he explained me very, very easy way, because millions and millions years ago, the Earth was really firing globe with a lot of CO2, with a lot of carbon in the air, in other words. Then there was first plants, like able to catch the carbon from the air, and they were go into the underground and so on. So it was the direct impact that our Earth was lower and lower temperature until it was enabling for creation of life, let's say. And what we are doing now is that we are taking the coal, we are taking the petrol and everything from the ground back to the air. In the case of synthetic materials, it means we took the petrol from Earth, make a polyester T-shirt, and then burn it to the air. So the question is that if we are able to stop that, because otherwise we will take our Earth back to these fiery times, let's say, with very high temperature and with a lot of carbon in the air. So basically, like this logic, it seems to be pretty easy, but maybe for somebody it's not such obvious.
What about, I had a guy who works also actually in the textile industry. His business is all about trying to create a product that makes it easier for consumers to understand how much carbon output went into the production of their clothing. So for example, when you, let's say you have two pieces of clothing, you can see, oh, this one produced that much throughout its whole supply chain, this one produced that much. And, he hopes to help people make more conscious choices, because he believes that it's the people who decide the market and what's being produced, etc. Right? Now, one of the things that I discussed with him about was climate deniers, right? I watched a podcast not too long ago, actually. Well, it's a couple months now, actually. It was, I think, his name is Bjorn Lomborg. Have you heard of him? Yeah, so he's a guy, he is essentially saying that the effects of the climate is a lot less serious than we make it out to be. It's not as bad as they say it is. His whole philosophy is on this. And he's a political scientist, author, and president of this business here. But he's essentially saying that global warming contradicts the scientific consensus on climate change. These views include the claim that the negative impacts are overstated and the opinion that too much emphasis is put on climate change mitigation at the expense of climate change adaptation. He agrees, though, that global warming is real and man-made and will have a serious impact, but enumerates other disagreements with scientific consensus. Now, he's essentially saying and arguing that we should instead adapt rather than try to mitigate. What are your views on adapting as opposed to mitigating, which is what most people are trying to do?
Yeah, there is, I've read really a lot of scientific papers on this topic, yeah, and also some contradictory papers. Of course, there is full of them, full of the opinions, but the fact is clear at the moment. Really clear, because you can take one very good scientist with a really opposite opinion, you can take another one and so on. But it's just small pieces in whole sand. And if you see common agreement of the authors, it's evident that it's really a really serious situation now.
Yeah,
I think this is dangerous as well, because before a war in Ukraine, there was a lot of people saying Russia will never attack Ukraine. Don't worry, guys, you are stupid, and so on. Now look at that, And the bad thing with the global warming is that we are not able to take it back. We are not able to repair it then, because once we will leave and the water will stop to flow through our water basin, that's too late to make some action. So the very challenging thing is that we need to do it on a very predictive basis, I would say. And for example, for Europeans, it's again very difficult to personalize with that, because they can see, as you said, on the label, they can see some number of CO2 emissions, but the emotional feeling is not there. If they, I don't know, if you ask somebody, will you be happy that a tornado will kill your mother? Everybody will tell you no. But if you ask him, look, will you buy the more expensive T-shirt but with lower CO2 emission footprint? They will doubt there, and maybe that's exactly the same question. In the end of the day.
Yes.
This is the problem that, we can see it on the war. We can see it with COVID. It's the same. Once the COVID was only in Asia, European was, it's fake, don't worry, and so on. Then it came to the Europe, and everybody was like shocked and panic and so on. So it was exactly the same situation, but with COVID, we were lucky that we were able to do some actions and manage the situation. But with the global warming, with water scarcity, with all these environmental issues, probably will not be able to do actions to stabilize it. It will be too late. I think that, that we should, everybody should put maximum effort to save the people on the planet.
Absolutely. I mean, it's also like similar to what I spoke about with another guest that I had on, like I mentioned, but we spoke about how to create that emotional impact on people so that they do make that choice, right? Because I'll often read like, if you do this, X happens, like you save a tree, or it's like if you do this, then it's like one less car on the road. But like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that means. What is one car, right? How does that impact anything? So I think it's like a lot of it comes down to education, educating society at large about the negative consequences. I actually read about, I don't know if it was the North Pole or Antarctica, but it's like if the ice melts to a certain extent, it can increase the sea levels by, was it 40% or even more? I don't know what it was. What is one thing, a consequence that us humans living on this planet will experience as a consequence of global warming in our lifetimes? Or is it later?
A lot of people will die. A lot of people. The direct consequences of global warming is massive dying of population. If I should be very short. The reasons of dying is multiple ones. Of course, the migration, economic things, the temperature things itself. You can see now a lot of fires in the areas where had never been the forests in fire and so on. So that's also a lot of dies related to it. But in other words, big part of population will die if we will not stop it.
Yeah, it's a lot there. Now, obviously, your business is a small part, plays a small but important part when it comes to trying to mitigate those effects. What is your big vision for NeilTekstile? What is your, what do you hope to achieve with your company?
We want to change textile industry. We want to make textile industry sustainable. That's the mission, make the textile circular. And that's the goal. To be honest, for me, I don't have such emotional relationship to clothing itself. For me, clothing is like subject how to make positive impact. And I don't really care if it's clothing, if it's synthetic meat, if it's electric car, if it's, I don't know, whatever. But what's my passion is to create through this product the positive impact. So the goal for the textile is create as big positive impact as possible. And then probably I will move myself to other industry to create again something sensible and positive.
So you wanna do as much good as you can with this business, and then you're like, okay, I solved it, or I got to my goal or the change that I wanted. I'm gonna go into a new business now.
Yeah, or just keep, some little contact with the textile, some small shares and so on, and try to help in other industry. Yeah.
It's kind of giving me like these small Elon Musk vibes, like you start this one thing, you're like, oh, fixed it, next problem.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. But Elon Musk concretely, I think I don't agree with him with a lot of political opinions, economic opinions, and so on. But his idea, because he's focusing on aerospace industry, because it can be one of the solutions for the global environmental crisis. Moving people from Earth to another planet can be a solution, definitely. So that's one thing. The second he's focusing is transportation. Transportation is the industry with one of the biggest carbon footprint, So it makes sense as well. Then he has business in solar energy, I think, making renewable resources for energy industry, another one which has a lot of environmental challenges. So generally, I have to state that these Elon Musk activities make sense to me, because he's not dig into some concrete details and niche markets, but trying to solve really population problem. And this population problem with for example, environmental ecological issues, it can affect whole population very easily. So in this kind of approach, I totally agree with Elon. Yeah.
That side you agree, but economics and political views, just no.
I don't know him, so it means that I think that he's a very clever guy. He has a lot of money in stock investment. So a lot of his action is related to influence the stock price. So I don't know what's real from his soul and what's just the game. So that if I should have opinion of what I see, I totally don't agree with that. But I think, for example, high link in the in the speech, it's very good because it makes viral. I don't know how is it in English. This raising the right hand. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean the Hitler thing, the salute?
Exactly. So of course, I totally don't agree, but I think that it's a rational thing that he made rationally this thing.
Do you think he did the thing on purpose? He was actually saying like Heil Hitler, or was it more of a my heart goes out to you guys, my heart goes out to you? Because that's what, like, you have one side of people saying like it was a Nazi salute. You have another side saying my heart goes out to you guys, my heart goes out to you. What do you which one do you think it is?
I think that it was very clever, because my point of view is that he's a very clever guy, and I think
you think he's trolling? He
knew because he knew that it will be viral, that it will be discussion around, but still he will be covered by this, that it was like hard thing, So I think it was just tactics, yeah.
Yes, in your business right now, right? Your goal is to change the textile industry, make it circular, make it more sustainable. What is the biggest bottleneck, as in the biggest challenge that is holding you back from achieving that today?
Probably price barrier. There is still price difference between sustainable textile and conventional textile. And there are a couple of ways how to solve it. Of course, the conventional textile will get to be more and more expensive because of legislation, regulations, and so on. And on the other hand, the sustainable textile will get more and more achievable from price point of view because of economies of scale, because of automatization. We do a lot of things in automatization. And for example, also we are opening our own production facility in India, to be able to serve the Asian market and also to with fully European standards applied there, fully under our control. But for the scale up, also this price barrier plays a big role. So the goal is to have two white T-shirts with similar price, and if the customer knows that one is conventional shit and the second one is sustainable one, then I believe that good in the people wins and they are choosing the sustainable one. But a lot of people in sustainable industry is very alibistic, that they are saying, but you need to pay more money and so on. But standard consumer doesn't want to pay more money. And it's our responsibility of the industry leaders to make the sustainable fashion affordable and put it on the scale.
Yes, interesting. Now, final question for you today, Mikulas. What do you believe it takes to succeed? I mean, you touched on discipline. You mentioned that this was like more important than motivation. But is there one thing or multiple things that stand out for you in terms of success in whatever domain you want to get into?
I would probably repeat the discipline and consistency, to be honest, because I think it's one of the most valuable things nowadays, and not only in the work life, also in personal life. How many friends or how many friendships and relations which takes years and years, To be honest, I don't know much of them, So long-term consistency driven by discipline is, I think, one of the most important things, because only through this way you can create the real values. And again, you can get example. For example, once you get in love with somebody, the first years it's emotional ones, and then just through the long term, from the consistency in making this relationship bigger and bigger, you go to the real values of this relationship, like that you can trust each other, you can build family, you can support each other, and this true values. So for me, that's probably the most important life generally, and it's very well applicable in the work life, because a lot of startups, again, I think 90% of startups fails in the first 5 years, So of course there are really, really difficult things, and also me, sometimes I come home and watching to the wall and saying myself, oh, you could be a rich employee and you could avoid all these things, but then I recognized I'm living my dream. I'm doing what I want to, and that's it. But this consistency to be able to overcome the challenges, manage the challenges, move yourself, it's very important. And even I would say in my case, sometimes, as I told you, it can be even negative, because I'm able to be very resilient against stressful situation, against negatives and so on, that sometimes I'm continue without the checking if I'm continuing the best way, like if I shouldn't be a little bit change my course, for example. But this is, I think, very important.
That was amazing advice, Mikulas. And I want to thank you one more time again for coming on to the podcast today. I had a real pleasure talking to you. It was very interesting. Man, thank you so much.
Thank you, Darren. It was very nicely spent hour of my life. And thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.